to the Mafia Means Friendly podcast.
I'm your host, Mafia Mom.
And I am Mini Mafia. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more amazing content.
All right, Mini Mafia, how you doing this week?
I am doing great. We are this close to Christmas.
We are. It's an exciting time. It's an awesome time of the year. And we hope everybody out there is doing well. We're sorry we couldn't go live tonight. We always miss it when we can't interact with you guys.
I got my basketball practice today, and my grandma's over.
So we got a busy week here, which you kind of expect the week before Christmas. Other than football, we'll start. How's your week been going? How's the week before Christmas treating you?
It's been great.
Good. You excited about basketball?
Yes, I am.
Your season starts a couple weeks, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's keep you guys posted about that. We're actually coaching him, so we're very excited about that too. We got a good team. So moving on to the Bills, because that's what everybody's here to talk about. What did you think of that Dallas game?
I loved it. I absolutely enjoyed it. See, the thing is, my grandpa's a Dallas fan.
Yeah. He doesn't really follow football.
I kind of teased him about it.
Yeah, you got to talk a little ish to him, right? Yeah, you sent him a text and said, "What about Dak?"
That he was the MVP, not most valuable player, most valuable pretender.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys were a little exposed, but I think a lot of people had their doubts about who the Cowboys were on the road compared to who they were at home, and I think the Bills exploited that big time. And they had a good game. It was a fun one to watch. It wasn't one that our hearts were beating heavy at the end. We pulled the starters out with like 12 minutes left of the game. Easily could have ran that score up to 40 or without the drops, because there were still 60. 4 drops in that game. One that would have been a touchdown, 2 that would have extended drives. Without those, who knows what we would have scored. But either way, it was a solid performance.
Dropping stuff.
Well, this last game he did, but I really think that had to do with the gloves.
Yeah,
he had the wrong gloves on. Yeah. Well, he had gloves for the rain, and then it wasn't really raining because Kincaid has been sure-handed all year. So that was a surprise to see him dropping it. Diggs still with another drop. I know it was a contested catch. Gilmore was right on his back. Not that it was a penalty or anything like that. But Gilmore was right there. And it still hit Diggs in the hands and in the chest. Like, you got to bring that ball in, especially on third down. But we're hoping Diggs gets back on track. It was a very unusual game, wasn't it? And this leads right into our players of the game. But, Josh Allen only completed, 7 passes? He threw 15. I mean, we've never seen that before.
Yards.
Yeah, he had under 100 yards throwing it. It's crazy. But who is your player of the game, and why did we win that game?
I'm actually not going into the major one right now. I am starting off with Benford with his first NFL interception. He really should have had like 2 or 3 that game.
He definitely should have had 2.
Yeah, he had the one he did, and then it bounced off his hands 2 more times.
And one more time for sure. I don't remember the other one, but it's possible. There were a couple interceptions that were dropped. So
we should have like 4 or 5 interceptions that game.
Yeah, we definitely dropped a few. Benford was a really solid choice, though. He played a good game. He was right there on the receivers and tight ends. And so he probably had one of his best games of the year, I would say.
Yep.
Really impressive. My defensive player of the game, since you started with defense, I'll go with defense. I'm going to go with the D-line, period. Specifically Ed Oliver, who we'll get to a little bit later, because if anybody was with us last week and remember my hot take, we'll cover that in the hot take review part. Also Jordan Phillips. Now, at the end of the day, I think we might have had 5 sacks on Dak, but it wasn't even about the sacks. It was just the constant pressure. I mean, Dak couldn't get comfortable. You could see it. At least we could. Watching him, he came out on like the 3rd drive, I think it was, and he was all of a sudden missing open guys, and he had happy feet. The D line really got organic pressure with 4 rushers for the most part, and it was impressive. But my player in specific that I'll focus on in this part would be Jordan Phillips. He got a sack. Now, he hasn't had a full sack since week 1 against the Jets. He's up to 2.5 for the year. He really should have had an interception as well on that batted ball.
If he didn't jump.
Yeah, and that was actually the drive that Dallas got the field goal on. So I hear a lot of people talking about how the Bills got fortunate on a few times. I'm sorry, I think we can all admit that Josh Allen flopped on that first roughing the passer. It was a horrible call.
To be fair, if he doesn't flop, he doesn't get that call.
Right, but he didn't
But
deserve
it
that
was
call.
really light.
There was nothing wrong with that hit. They're quarterbacks. They're still NFL players. That whole call was a horrible call. I'm not apologizing for it. The Bills have had more than their share of missed calls this year, so it is what it is. I also think that the call on Dodson when Dak was running, it became a runner. I think that was a bad call. Yeah, it was helmet to helmet, but he was a runner at that point. And running backs take that all the time and don't get called. So I think it evened out. But anyway, my point was that people were talking about how the Bills got lucky, the blocked punt thing, which was lucky. However, we also had a bunch of stuff that could have went our way that didn't. So I think that balanced out.
All of the interceptions.
The interceptions that were dropped, the dropped touchdown, the dropped first down passes, those type of things. But Jordan Phillips would be my defensive player of the game. He did have a sack, should have had an interception. Benford is yours. Now, who's your offensive player of the game? And this was really the start of the game.
He literally controlled the entire game. He basically did every single thing for the offense. James Cook. Shout out to you, man. You played amazing. I think that was the best performance we've seen out of him all year. Definitely.
In some ways, that was the best performance we've seen out of a Bills running back, at least since Thurman Thomas, but in one way in particular, ever. Yes. Mini Mafia is going to explain that.
So, offensive Cook yards. He had 25 carries for 179 yards, 7.2 yards per carry, with 1 rushing touchdown. But he was the first Bills player to have also 2 receptions for 42 yards.
He was the first Bills player to have that, though.
Not that, but a touchdown in a receiving touchdown with the rushing touchdown.
With 220 yards.
Yes. With the 220 yards.
So
scrimmage yards.
Right. So others had gotten up to 200 with those other stats, but James Cook was the first one to go over 220 scrimmage yards with a receiving and a passing touchdown in Bills history. So congrats to him. He was the first one since Thurman Thomas to put up those kind of numbers, though. It was really, really impressive. And he also got AFC Player of the Week, right?
Yes, he did.
So good for him. It was good to see him out there. And he really should have had 2 touchdowns because he dropped that one that he was walking into the end zone at the end there. So, but good for him. And that's, the Bills over the last few years, the biggest knock against them has been they're too one-dimensional and they're too Josh Allen reliant. And I think in this game, we proved that we can win more than one way. And to come out and play that kind of bully ball. And I got to say, the last few games, we've seen this a few times. It's almost like a rugby scrum where you have both teams pushing from either side and fighting for yards. And the Bills are winning that battle every time. There was 2 plays in particular in this last game, but the one, I think he picked up almost 10 more yards just being pushed. That was incredible.
He ran. He should have been stopped at the 2.
No, I'm not talking about that one. It wasn't the touchdown. It was earlier in the game.
I'm about talking about the touchdown. So he should have been stopped with 2 or 3 yards that he gained. But then the entire O-line and all of our players just came from the back and shoving him. He got the first down plus 2 more yards.
That was a few more yards. Yeah, it was really impressive. And that run actually won Angry Runs too for any of you that watch Good Morning Football, like Kyle Brandt. I think he loves giving it to Bills players. I think he's got a soft spot for any of the Bills. He actually announced one of our draft picks last year too. He's a Bills fan at heart for sure. We've adopted him. But he gave the angry run to James Cook for that scrum run and to the O-line. He gave it to actually James Cook and Deion Dawkins. They gave it to 2 players this time. They printed up a special shirt with 2 guys on it and stuff. It was impressive. So they're calling that the snowplow. You know how they have the brotherly shove? They're calling that the snowplow when everybody's behind them and pushing them. So it just, to me, it sets the tone for the game. And that's why I enjoy it so much. We talked a few weeks ago about there was a play in, I believe, the Miami game. This is obviously a while back, where we caught a ball near the sideline, and instead of just stepping out of bounds, we lowered the shoulder and fought for more yards. I apologize, I can't remember who it was. But the very following week, there was a play similar to that where the guy just stepped out of bounds, and I talked about how I could tell this game was different in that moment. When they have those plays that are just pure grit and heart and who wants it more, and we win those more often than not when we enter those battles, it shows me that they're pushing this game. This game is going to be something. They're going to give it everything they have. And obviously in that game they did. And I think that play early on really set the tone. So congrats to James Cook. I think that's a great choice for your player of the game.
He actually didn't have 220. He had 221.
Yes, it's just over
179 plus 42 is 221.
Yes.
So he's the only Bills player to go over 220.
Yes. With the receiving and rushing touchdown. My offensive player of the game is going to be the O-line. And earlier I said there were 5 sacks on Dak. I apologize. There's only 3. It seemed like a lot more than that, though. They were really living in the backfield. The O-line only gave up 1 sack on Josh Allen, and honestly, that shouldn't have been a sack. They blew the whistle too early. He got out of it. Of any quarterback that you are not going to blow the whistle early, it should be Josh Allen. He breaks more tackles after contact than any quarterback in the NFL. I cannot believe they called him down.
Isn't he on like the top 10 most broken tackles in the league?
No, because you can't compare it to running backs. They carry the ball so much more. But for a quarterback, last I saw, he led the NFL every year since he's been here and overall since he's been here, obviously. So not as far as broken tackles, not just missed tackles. Lamar Jackson, I think, usually is up there in that. But broken tackles, Josh Allen for sure. But the O-line only gave up 1 sack. They kept Josh Allen pretty clean, and that is a good pass rush. Now, I know he didn't pass a lot, but who's opening up the rushing lanes? It's the O-line. We saw Spencer Brown downfield blocking. We saw Deion Dawkins downfield blocking. The one time he's at the goal line pancaking a guy 15 yards away from the line of scrimmage. That's an incredible athletic play for a guy that big. Mitch Morris, we've seen him out there pulling. I thought Connor McGovern had a great game against his ex-team.
He actually
and Osiris Torrance.
It was either Osiris Torrance or Connor McGovern. I think it was Torrance, though. It might have been last game, but...
Yeah, it was last game. Mitch Morris was in there, too.
Yeah. So, James Cook was running up the middle like Latavius Murray. It was one of the two. And they were getting stopped, but then
Short of the goal line, yeah.
Yeah, but then somebody just came in charging and
that's that rugby play that I love to see, because again, it's just...
that was Torrance, though, and
Mitch Morris was in there, and McGovern
all of you
and Torrance,
said McGovern, but I said Torrance.
Yeah.
I was right.
But either way, I love those plays so much, because I think it comes down to who wants it more in that moment. And obviously the Bills wanted it more, and they punched Dallas in the mouth, and Dallas didn't get up. It was really, really impressive. But so the O-line opening up holes all over the place, like 270 yards rushing. That's insane. And Josh Allen stayed pretty clean. And there were times where he had a long time to throw the ball. So that O-line,
5-6 seconds.
Micah Parsons lined up over Spencer Brown and Osiris Torrance a lot.
He got completely eliminated.
And there were a lot of plays where they didn't block Micah Parsons on running plays. They just said, we're going to let you go because we're going to run in a spot where you can't catch him. And it worked over and over and over again. And it had to be frustrating for Micah Parsons. They did have a few guys that went down with injury. And I hope, Bills know what it's like to have injured guys out. I don't want any ill will against those guys. I hope they heal up. And White, Daquan Jones, for the record, has been activated off of the I. They've opened up his 21-day window. So they have 21 days from, I believe it was Monday, to either put him on the 53-man roster or put him back on IR. If he goes back on IR, he's done for the year. But it looks like he could definitely be back out there on the field this year. If Daquan Jones
comes back, we need to have him on a snap count in the Miami game.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not playing against the Chargers. I don't know if he'll come back next week against New England. Like, there's no date yet.
Yeah, we need him prepped, though, for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, we need him getting back on track for the playoffs.
Here's the thing. And Daquan Jones was one of the highest rated D tackles from PFF when he went out. He was winning at the line of scrimmage at a very high rate. I like Daquan Jones. I'm happy if he's coming back. I will say I wish that it was Milano, who there's no word on at this point. But I think the drop-off between Daquan Jones and the rest of the D-line is not nearly as extreme as the linebackers without Milano. But I'll take what I can get. I hope Daquan Jones can come back this year. He's a good, solid player in the middle, and it just keeps that D-line fresh longer. So I hope he can come back. All right, on to Factor Flag, unless there's anything else you want to add about the Dallas game.
No, can we do one thing before Factor Flag?
What's that?
Can we do players to watch before Factor Flag?
No, we're going to do that afterwards when we move on to next week. Man. Okay, so Factor Flag, you ready? For those of you who don't know how Factor Flag is played, I'm going to make a statement. It's essentially a trivia game. Mini Mafia here is either going to say that he believes that statement is a fact, or he's going to wave the yellow. If he waves the yellow, that means he believes it's false and it is a flag. All right, you ready? Are you ready? Stop reading my board, and are you ready? Yes. Okay. Number one, James, you got to wait till I ask. James Cook has the third most yards from scrimmage in the NFL this year. That means if you add together his receiving and rushing yards. He is also second most rushing yards, and he has the fifth most receiving yards for a running back.
So are all of those the fact or flag?
All together, yep.
I'm actually going to say that's a flag.
You're going to say that's a flag. Okay, out of curiosity, which one do you think is false?
I think probably the third most yards from scrimmage.
Okay.
Because I would think Alvin Kamara and CMC definitely.
But it's not. You're not just competing with running backs there, receivers too.
Oh, and receivers?
Yeah, the first one is yards from scrimmage, period. So
yeah, he definitely has less than receivers too.
Okay.
Like Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase.
Justin Jefferson's been hurt a lot, but okay, so you ready?
Yeah.
Those are facts.
All of them?
So, yep, James Cook is third behind CMC, Christian McCaffrey, and Tyreek Hill in scrimmage yards. That's it. He is ahead of everybody else. He is the second highest rushing yards behind only Christian McCaffrey.
I am surprised.
He has the fifth most receiving yards for a running back. And here's another one for you. He also has the fifth highest yards per carry in the NFL, and that includes quarterbacks. So, like, Justin Fields is up there in yards per carry. Quarterbacks usually are. James Cook is tied for fifth with 5.1 yards per carry. So, he has had a very impressive year. And for all that talk about how the Bills don't run the ball enough, we actually are in the bottom half of the league in pass play percentage. So, we're running the ball a lot more than people think we are. And we're getting James Cook involved, especially since Joe Brady took over. So, good for him, really making a name for himself. You're surprised, right? Yes, it's crazy stats.
Very surprised.
Yeah. All right, on to number 2 here, fact or flag. So we all know the Chargers have had some issues on defense this season. However, for all their issues, they have been very good on defense. This has to do with James Cook again, with keeping backs from hurting them in the pass game. So they are only giving up 2.75 receptions per game to running backs this season.
Have they played the 49ers yet?
I don't know. I don't know their schedule offhand.
If they play the 49ers, I don't think that's true.
I don't think they play the 49ers, but I don't know. You're just going to have to go generalized.
I would say that's a fact.
You would say that's a fact. Okay.
Actually, I'm 0 for 2.
You are 0 for 2, sir. They've actually given up over 6 receptions to running backs this year. And I only glanced at it for a moment, but I believe 6, it would tie the high for James Cook this year in receptions in one game. So 6 is a lot for them to be giving up per game. So 6 catches to running backs per game this season. All right, on to the last one. Ready? You got to get one right. You got to go out on top. All right. The Chargers defense is tied for allowing the third highest QB rating to opposing QBs in the NFL at 98.2.
So like they're in the
QB rating. No, so they have the highest 3 QB ratings. So QB rating and QBR are 2 different things. The QB rating is the one that's out of like 158.3. The QBR, is out of 100. This is the one out of 158.3. So 98.2 is what they're giving up, and it's the third highest.
Okay, so they're giving up 98.2 quarterback
QB rating. Yep. That's the third highest in the NFL this year.
That would be really high because there's just like too many like really scrambling quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't have a lot to do with scrambling. These are passing stats. Yeah. So.
But like, there's not many like really strong armed guys, but they're accurate. I don't know. I'm gonna say that's a fact. I'm 1 for 3. I know.
Nope, you're 1 for 3. So that is a fact. I'll give you a bonus point here if you can tell me who do you think they're tied with. It is a team the Bills played this year.
Jets.
No, actually, the Jets have defensive stats are pretty good. It's actually the Eagles. So the Eagles are also giving up the third highest QB
I would
rating
have never guessed the
to opposing
Eagles.
QBs. Yep.
I would have
So
guessed like the Broncos or the Bucks then.
yeah, their defense has definitely been struggling this year, a lot more than in recent years. So
Really
anyway, though, so you did go
surprising.
1 for 3. So good job, Mini Mafia. Came back with it at the end. The Chargers defense is in the bottom 10 in most stats in the league right
So
now,
like they kinda
defensively.
suck.
So their defense has struggled a lot. Look, if there was a game that I was going to go into feeling good as a Bills fan, which is very, very
This
rare,
game.
it's this game. And I
would
don't mean
put
to be
playoff
cocky.
Lenny in this game.
I don't mean to be cocky. I don't mean to be overconfident, but like if the Bills don't win this game, if this game is even close, the Bills screwed up something big. They have a no-name quarterback in there in Easton Stick who's had one real game all season. He threw one pass in another game. They just fired their head coach, and I know sometimes there's a bump from firing your head coach. I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to enough. Like, this is not a team who's on the up and up. It just isn't right now. They're struggling. They have injuries all over the place, same as the Bills, but they haven't been able to figure out how to overcome it. And their biggest asset on offense is out in Justin Herbert. So I really feel good about this game going into it. And we're going to move on now. I mean, Keenan Allen, I believe he's okay. He's still a beast, but like, you have who's throwing him the ball. You know what I mean? Like,
Stick.
It's a lot less worrisome when you have Easton Stick back there and not Justin Herbert. Okay, do you have anything else that you want to add before we move on to the Chargers game?
No.
Okay. So I did want to look up the injury report real quick. I had it up earlier and lost it. But we'll move on to players to watch. So who are your give me one of your players to watch.
Shakir.
Okay, Khalil Shakir. And what are you thinking he's going to do this week?
I think he's going to be explosive because he's kind of like a Beasley, but he's a little bigger.
Yeah.
So, like, I think he's going to be able to, like, find some holes in the defense and, like, get, like 10, 15, maybe 20 yards a catch.
Okay.
So I think he's definitely going to open up the defense. And since they'll be worrying about the pass, like medium and deep, that will open up the run game. And when the run game gets going, play action passes are available.
Absolutely. And obviously putting on film what we did last week should really make teams have to prepare for the run game, and that's going to open things up for Allen for sure.
Also,
I will say I just learned, and I apologize, I didn't know this before, but Jordan Phillips has been placed on IR with a wrist injury. So he is going to be done for at least the regular season. Also, Micah Hyde has already been ruled out for this week. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I think Taylor Rapp can do just fine there. AJ Epinesa is questionable. He was limited all week with the rib injury, so we'll see what happens with him. Daquan Jones also was practicing this week. He was limited. He's questionable for the Chargers game, but I heard McDermott say Monday that he would not play in the Chargers game, so I wouldn't expect to see him out there this week. So those are the Charger or the Bills injuries for this week. So Shakir is your offensive player to watch. I know this is kind of lame, but I am going to go with probably the most obvious of all players. My player to watch is Josh Allen. Now, look, we lost to the Eagles. Josh had a phenomenal game. We beat the Chiefs. Josh had an average game for Josh. Beat the Cowboys, and Josh didn't have to do much. I know he still had 2 touchdowns. That's great. He also broke the record for most games in a season with a passing and rushing touchdown with his 10th of the year. So out of 14 games played, he has scored at least 1 passing and rushing touchdown in 10 of those.
Wait, Mafia Mom, isn't he like on the verge of hitting 40 touchdowns?
Yeah, I think he's at 37.
Wouldn't this be like his like 5th? Wouldn't this be like his 4th or 5th season in a row?
I believe it would be his 4th season with the total, but I could be wrong about that. He scored at least 35. Maybe actually. It might be 40 for 4 years or 3 years in a row might be a record. I'd have to look into it though, and I don't want to mislead people. As far as the Chargers, real quick, so they have a few people on. Keenan Allen did not practice. few other guys that don't have huge names. A few guys have names that I know, but I'm not going to try to pronounce. But yeah, so Keenan Allen did miss practice.
That's a big one.
What day was this? That was Wednesday. So that was like after 1 to 2 days of practice. So we'll see what happens with Keenan Allen, whether or not he plays. Moving on though, who is your defensive player of the to watch this week?
My defensive is Bedford. I think he's fired up after his first NFL pick. I think he kept that ball.
Probably. And it actually says Keenan Allen is expected to miss another week. So it does not look like we will be going up against Keenan Allen.
So this makes it even better for Bedford going up against like
Mike Williams as long as he's in. Yeah. I haven't honestly been keeping up with the Chargers because they're not really in our way for the playoffs. So I haven't been watching a lot.
I hope Bedford has like a massive game. Like imagine he gets like 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, and a tackle for loss.
That'd be amazing. You always go to these like record-setting games, though. You do in your head. Like you have these games much bigger. I'd love to see Bedford, have another strong game and keep stacking those strong games. I think it does a lot for his confidence and for the Bills' confidence in him. So I'd love to see him have another big game. On to my defensive player of the game. Again, Josh Allen, I believe he will light it up. We'll go through the Josh Allen stat line again in a minute. That's my offensive player. Terrell Dodson. Now, Terrell Dodson is not meant to be a starter. He's a backup in this league. But I do think recently he's been playing really, really well. I know he got the personal foul call, unnecessary roughness in the game. I don't really agree with that call. Again, Dak was a runner. He was not giving himself up. But it is what it is. Either way, he's been playing aggressive and he's been playing strong. And the mistakes have been more limited in recent weeks than they were before. So I think that's good to see. Just like I mentioned about Ed Oliver last week, I'm not sure how much of Terrell Dodson's play is going to show up on the stat sheet. It's more about him being in the right place and filling gaps that he's supposed to fill, especially in the run game. If they do have any weapons that I'm worried about, it's Austin Eckler. He is playing for a future contract, and Austin Eckler's a beast. Don't let the down year fool you. That guy is talented. And
Austin Eckler, I think the Chargers are going to be going into a rebuild soon.
Maybe. I don't know. They have a young quarterback, but either way.
Around him. So if we could pick up Austin Eckler, which I don't think they would trade him, but if we could, that would...
I would have said that last year. I'm not sure it would make sense to get rid of James Cook for an older running back at this point.
Yeah, have Austin Eckler as our third and fourth down and Cook as our first and second.
I mean, Austin Eckler's not known as the biggest guy. He's going to go to a team that needs a running back. And I think James Cook has made it so that the Bills aren't one of those teams. But it would have been something really cool. I would have loved to have seen Eckler picked up last year. I think he would have done wonders for our offense. And he would have been a good guy for James Cook to learn behind. But either way, the guy's a beast. And don't let him get going because he can wreck a game real quick.
If Eckler gets over 70 yards rushing in the first couple of quarters,
we would be in trouble. Yeah, they would be controlling the clock and stuff. But I think a lot of that's going to fall on Terrell Dodson in both the run game and the pass game. So I expect a good game out of Terrell Dodson. Terrell Bernard as well. Yes, Terrell Dodson's also been sent on blitzes a lot lately, and he's been pretty successful getting to the quarterback and at times bringing him down, but at least getting him off of his spot. So Terrell Dodson, good job.
A bunch.
All right, on to our hot take review.
Josh Allen stat line.
No, hot take review first. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're right. Josh Allen stat line. My apologies. You're 100% right. Do you want to go first?
I will. I think this is going to be a big game for my Josh Allen stat line. I am throwing for 296 yards, 23 for 33, 4 touchdowns. And on the rushing side, 1 rushing touchdown and 60 total rushing yards. So that adds up to 5 touchdowns and 356 yards.
I think if he has a game like that, he cements himself as one of the favorites for MVP, which I already think people should be looking at him, given that he leads the NFL in total touchdowns, total yards, and he is top 10 in almost every category. I think that he does a lot more for the Bills than Brock Purdy does for the Niners. If you have to sit there and think about who would you rather lose, yes. If you have to sit there and think about who would you rather lose, CMC or Brock Purdy, then neither one of Brock Purdy can't be your MVP then, if that's a question. In Buffalo, who would you rather lose, Diggs or Allen? Diggs. I love Diggs, but Diggs. Who would you rather lose, James Cook or Allen? Allen or Cook. There's no way I'm ever picking Allen, no matter who you put him next to. So that's, to me, what the definition of an MVP is. But don't get me started on that because it's all a narrative-based award. And I don't know if Allen will have an opportunity to win it this year. I think he deserves to be looked at. And I think if they win out and he averages at least 2 touchdowns per game in the rest of these games, I think you have to give it to him. But we'll see what happens.
How about Bruce Smith if he comes? Like how about Bruce Smith or in his prime with Josh Allen?
I would still rather be without Bruce Smith. I think that pass rush could survive. How about
Randy Moss in his prime with Josh Allen's attitude?
Like, I would still keep Josh Allen in there, but we can't go through all of these possibilities of guys that never played in a Bills jersey and don't play now. My Josh Allen stat line. So I'm close to yours. I do think that he's going to have more passing yards. I think he's going to be above 320. I put 340 here, but above 320. I think he has 3 passing TDs. I also think he adds another 40 rushing yards. Now, they've played a couple mobile quarterbacks this year, and one thing the Chargers defense has actually been pretty good at is controlling those mobile quarterbacks. They had the most they allowed was 40 yards rushing. That was to Dak, and they allowed 39 to Lamar. Now, that doesn't mean that Josh can't get bigger yards, but it just hasn't. Other than that, all of them were pretty low. So they just haven't been giving up those yards, but I still think Josh ends up with about 40, and I think he has a rushing TD, so 4 TDs total. He finally broke his 9 games in a row, 10 games in a row, whatever it was, with an interception.
He
did not have an interception, thankfully, on only his 7 completions. So I would like to see another game where he protects the ball. I think that is more important. I'd rather see him only have 2 touchdowns and protect the ball than have 4 touchdowns and turn it over again. I think just psychologically, we need to continue to take care of the ball because that's going to be very important come postseason. Another thing I'll add here, and I'll say it part of my hot take, so I'll wait because it's a season-long thing. Hot take review from last week. So PJ expected Bernard to have a big game with an interception, a forced fumble. You may have even said 2 interceptions. I didn't go back and look, but obviously that did not happen, although the defense played very, very good in that game. However, I mentioned that I thought Ed Oliver was going to be a game wrecker. And I mentioned that I didn't know if it would show up on the stat sheet. It did not show up on the stat sheet. His numbers aren't gawky. He didn't even have a sack in the game. However, the first half of that game, especially those first few drives, Ed Oliver was involved in every third down play. He deflected passes. He was rushing the quarterback. He was stopping the run. Ed Oliver played a phenomenal game. It's just not the kind of game that shows up on the stat sheet, which is what I thought was going to happen. But Ed Oliver deserves credit for being a game wrecker in the beginning of that game. He was all over Dak. I mean, he was in Dak's face every time. The interception that Jordan Phillips almost got was because of a tip pass because of Ed Oliver. So Ed Oliver played a really good game, and I think I did get that one right last week. So on to our hot takes for this week. What do you got?
I have Oliver with 2.5 sacks.
Okay. So he's got 6.5 on the year. That would bring him up to 9. That would be a great game. And it's very possible with Easton Stick. Easton Stick is not the most mobile guy. He had 2 rushes for 11 yards in the last game, and that's it. So obviously he's not using his legs as a weapon. It doesn't appear compared to other QBs.
Like he's getting up there with like the Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett of that. He's going to eventually get there.
I hope so.
And when he does, this defense will become top 3.
I think when we get our guys back, our defense is top 3. But Ed Oliver is never going to have the kind of numbers that an Aaron Donald has because we spread out that D-line so much and we rotate it so much to keep those guys fresh. But I do think it just in terms of him impacting games that he is inching up closer to those really elite tackles in the league. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for the work he's put in this year. He signed that big contract he's really proven that he was worth every penny of it. If the Bills had to pay him after this season, I think we'd be paying him more money. So good for Brandon Beane getting it done early, and good for Ed Oliver of not letting that money go to his head and still playing at a really high level, at a higher level than he was. Okay. My hot take for this week would be, I'm going to keep saying it, man. It's going to happen one of these games. Stephon Diggs. He is so overdue for a big game. And being that the Chargers defense struggles, I think this could be a week where we really see it. So I expect Stephon Diggs to have over 120 receiving yards, and I think he will get in the end zone twice.
I mean, I love Diggs, but he needs to control the drops. Like, I think he might need to change his gloves, or I'm pretty sure they did this to one of the players, like the old Bills. They had the most dropped guy carry the ball around.
That was in a movie.
Yes, I think it was in Remember the Titans.
No, it's in the movie Second String, which is actually about the Buffalo Bills. Very, very cool movie. If you ever get a chance to watch it. They had a guy carry
the ball around wherever they went, and they would try to knock it out. And if they knocked it out, I'm pretty sure something would happen.
Yeah, he had to give $20 to a party fund for the end of the year. And that's cool, and it's funny, and it's a cool story. However, it's not that Diggs is fumbling, although he did, and we got lucky in the Dallas game. It didn't look like a fumble initially. I get why it wasn't challenged or called a fumble, but he 100% fumbled that ball. But just the drops, man, it's something psychological with him, and he just needs to stack a game or two together where his hands are unbelievable. He did make that great one-handed catch. Good for him there, but the drops have got to stop. He's got to hold on to the ball. I agree with you there.
I think it's when Trayvon got injured.
I don't think it was then. He still had a lot of really great games after that. It's just been the last month and a half. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We need Diggs to turn it on, and now's the time of year to do it.
Yes,
now, my other hot take, and I'm upset with myself that I did not say this after the Eagles game, because at home I said it between the Broncos and the Eagles game. So seeing our remaining schedule at that point and seeing Miami's remaining schedule, I believe the Bills will win the AFC East. Now, all we need to happen in order to do that is we need the Bills to win out. And they play the Herbertless Chargers. They play New England at home, and they finish off the season against Miami in Miami.
That will be
that will probably be for the division. Now, the Dolphins play us obviously the last week of the year, but in between now and then, they play the Cowboys. It's going to be they play the Cowboys in Miami. The Cowboys are going to be very, very pissed off, and they're going to come in there and want to prove a point. I think the Cowboys match up very well with the Dolphins, and I don't think the Dolphins will win that game.
And
then next week they play the Ravens
in the playoffs.
No, it wasn't in the playoffs. The Ravens
humiliated or something.
Okay, the Ravens lost a 3-score lead with 5 minutes left in the game last year to the Dolphins in Baltimore, and they were embarrassed. It was embarrassing. You can't give that up. They are playing this game in Baltimore. It could be cold. I don't think Miami wins either one of those games. If they lose at least one, though, Week 18 is for the division as long as we handle our business and win. I believe the Bills will win the division, and we will host a playoff game. Now, I don't think we're going to get the number 1 seed, even though I think there's some crazy scenario where we could. I don't even think we're going to get the number 2 seed. We would have to end the season tied with Kansas City in order to have that tiebreaker. They're the only team we beat out in a tiebreaker. But unless it's Miami and we beat them twice. I think Miami's falling apart. They do this every December. Kind of like Dallas. There's a lot of hype around them, and in the end, they just don't come through. Not that the Bills have, but their reputation's a little different. They choke a little later in the year. But I think the AFC East will run through Buffalo for a 4th year in a row, I believe it is. So we'll see what happens. But that's my other hot take for the season. Anything else you want to add about the hot takes?
No.
Okay. So on to score predictions. This is our final segment here. We're going to tell you what we believe the score is going to be. If you have a score prediction, please, or a hot take, or a Josh Allen stat line, please share it in the comments below. I get on and check the comments as often as I can for my own personal account, and I love to see what feedback you guys have for us. And if there's anything that I think will be of interest to Mini Mafia, I make sure he sees it as well. So please share your thoughts and your predictions below. My score prediction for this game, and I never predict blowouts because I've been a Bills fan too long to feel that confident about a game. But I cannot fathom a way that this game is close. And I could be completely wrong. Maybe the Chargers come out there and punch us in the mouth just like we just did at Dallas. I don't know. But the way I see this going down is a blowout game. I see the final score being somewhere around 41-13 Bills. So that's my score prediction.
My score prediction is 45-24. That might be a little high. So yours could also be possible.
Yeah. I mean, anything's possible any given Sunday.
That's why we're definitely going to hit over 40.
That's why they play the game and they don't just decide who wins based on the rosters. And anything could happen. I mean, we've seen it. The Giants, that game should not have been that close. The Broncos, that game should not have been that close. Like, we've seen us drop games this year, but this team seems focused and they seem ready to make their playoff run, and they're already in playoff mode. So I would expect them to come out and play a strong game. I'm hoping they don't get too high on themselves at this point, because you've done nothing. You're still in second place in your own division, and you're still fighting to get into the playoffs. So at this point here, you've accomplished nothing. So go out there and play like everything's on the line, because it is. Anything else you want to add, Mini Mafia, before we close this out?
No.
Okay. To all of you out there, we hope that you have a safe and wonderful holiday. Please,
have a holly jolly Christmas.
Absolutely. And please make sure you enjoy your time with your family. We don't get enough of that these days, and just cherish it. It's worth it. Those memories are important. And everybody enjoy the game this weekend. We play Saturday night in Los Angeles against the Chargers. They're not known for having the rowdiest of crowds, so I would not be surprised to see more Bills fans there than Chargers, especially this year. But yeah, have a safe and wonderful holiday. And until next time, go Bills!
Bye-bye.
See, Peter, he's too fast.
You gotta tackle me. It's B. You gotta press B.
I'm pressing B. He's too fast.
Going over here? Going over here now? Never get tired.
What?